We have the story from the Post-Millennial. White House tried to get special counsel to change Biden classified docs report before release. Hur said that officials did, in fact, request certain edits and changes to the draft report. This is interesting because I believe it was reported to the contrary. Initially, the White House denied that they ever tried to interfere. Now, this is the special counsel, Robert Hur, who was testifying before the House Judiciary Committee earlier today in what may be, I think this testimony may be some of the most important testimony this country has ever heard, because this testimony exposes that there is no longer a country. I don't know how else to put it. Robert Hur identified multiple criteria that had to be met in order to justify criminally charging Joe Biden. He was asked several times by Republicans, was the criteria met? To which he kept saying no, but yes. And the reason why, the third criteria, I believe it was the willful retention of the documents or something to this effect. And he said, while there is evidence that Joe Biden did willfully retain these documents, knowingly breaking the law, he's got a bad memory. So we couldn't prove that he was willful when he did it, despite the fact he said he was doing it for financial gain and for his legacy. And he warned others that it was dangerous because it might be classified, but we can't prove that. It's like, wait, hold on. I kid you not. He was asked several times, Robert Hur. So Joe Biden was speaking with his ghostwriter, and he tells his ghostwriter, be careful, some of this might be classified. The ghostwriter then deletes that conversation, knowing there was a special counsel investigating it and that it was a crime. Obstructing justice, destroying evidence. There have been no criminal charges. When you have in congressional testimony a man saying, I kid you not, Joe Biden thought he was going to make money off his book. He was what's the word that he, I can't remember. He said that he was reserved to make this book happen or something like that. That there were people who were interested in buying it. He needed these documents for his legacy, and that is in the report factually. And I have to wonder, when we have this story that the White House tried to get special counsel to change the Biden classified docs report before its release, I have to wonder if what really happened is Robert Hur was like, oh yeah, Joe Biden broke the law and willfully retained the documents, shared the information with someone who had no clearance, knew he did it, and then the Biden White House went to him and said, we will destroy you and we will destroy your children unless you refuse to go after Biden. And this is what he ended up getting out of it. I can't tell you. It is shockingly insane. You know, Adam Schiff is arguing that Robert Hur was actually trying to help Trump win by saying that Joe Biden was, essentially a frail old man, well-to-do old man with a bad memory, when he didn't need to include that. And Robert Hur said, well, I did, to explain why we weren't charging him. And then, you know, the Democrats were like, you could have said something like you lacked the evidence to prove intent. That's all. And that's true. I mean, Robert Hur didn't need to say, here's why. He could have literally just been like, however, evidence of intent were ultimately the problem was the reason why he did have to include it is because all the criteria has been met. Joe Biden took classified documents. He had them at multiple locations. I think it was like 6 locations. He did it for financial gain because he wanted to write a book and he knew the book was going to sell. He wanted to preserve his legacy. Apparently, this is what he was saying. Here's the wildest part of it. When Robert Hur was questioning Joe Biden, I kid you not, Joe Biden responds with, you step your foot off the accelerator until it says launch. Transcript then indicates makes car sound, which means Joe Biden literally, when talking to the special counsel and being investigated, he's like, here, so the Corvette's great. You put your foot in the accelerator, you hold it down until it says launch, take your foot off the brake, and then brr, brr. He literally said, this is what Dylan Hausman says, Joe Biden literally said, my Corvette go burr, when Hur pleaded with him to answer actual questions. I watched this testimony and I was like, there's no United States.
There's no reality.
Look, a country, a legitimate functioning country with a legitimate functioning law enforcement, this does not happen in. But we're a banana republic. The sitting president broke the law 7 years ago. The argument from Robert Hur is that Joe Biden today, his memory is bad. So, you know, what are we going to do? Like, this was 7 years ago. It was Afghanistan documents from when he was vice president. Yeah, well, what are you going to do about it? I guess that's the point. What are we going to do about it? Now, a few things say Maybe Robert Hur was like, if we indict him, then they can bring in Gavin Newsom. You know, they can justify something. So let's just let him stay president, I guess.
His memory's bad, so let's put him in the White House. That sounds good. It is amazing. To me, this comes across as protecting Biden at any cost, and for some reason, instead of saying we couldn't establish intent, saying, well, you know, he's bad memory, can't always trust everything he says, somehow seemed like a better conclusion to draw. Which to me, as an American citizen, sounds awful. We don't know what this guy's going to say, and he can't remember anything. Good thing he's making all of our decisions right now.
To what degree do you think they're protecting him? Because it's like, yeah, they're protecting him, but they're also parading this brain dead person out before everyone. You know, like, I've been thinking a lot about FDR and the media and how the media protected, you know, FDR's paralysis from the people. And if you even go to FDR's website, they'll talk about how if a journalist reported on his weak legs, they'd go after those journalists and like shake him down, basically. You know, so how are they protecting Biden? Because they're not hiding his Alzheimer's, whatever he's got going on, like they used to hide.
But what if they are hiding it? This is the best they can do to hide it.
Or are they hiding it to a point where they can still get him across the finish line to the next election and then do something, some Hail Mary with Gavin Newsom? Who knows?
After 2020, my brain is just jelly.
Like Biden's.
Like
we're all Biden.
We've been Bidened. No, because I think it's fair to say that the general political commentary assessment of the 2020 election was sound, but no one saw the ballot harvesting coming in the procedural changes. So when we're looking at, I think the best example is Moody's Analytics, which is historically accurate, says the economy is good, Trump's going to win, and there's actually a slim potential for a serious victory for Donald Trump. And then Trump ends up winning all the bellwethers, but loses. He ends up with more votes than any sitting president and loses, which has never happened before. So all of these metrics were indicating that Trump should have won, except for Democrats changed the rules, were ballot harvesting and operating what Time Magazine called a shadow campaign, which they refer to, Time Magazine as a conspiracy. Yep. I could not have seen that Time Magazine's conspiracy coming.
Is that article still live?
Yes.
It's amazing it's still out there. It's a crazy article.
And it quite literally says there was a conspiracy unfolding from corporate executives and politicos to stop Trump from winning.
They're like, Trump was calling a conspiracy. He would technically be right because what we did is crazy.
No, they literally say it wasn't.
I know.
They're not even saying it wasn't. They're saying they literally engaged in a conspiracy.
Yeah, and this is how we did it.
So after that happens, I'm kind of like, okay, no sane human being could think that Trump is going to lose this one. Something we can't predict is going to happen. I have no idea. Or maybe it's just, that's it. The establishment powers have shattered.
Do you think we make it to an election normally? Or is there a weird Hail Mary thing happening from either side?
Yeah, I tend to think we're going to. I mean, of course, this is the prediction business. I think that we actually do, as you mentioned, have sort of PTSD from 2020. So we do assume that there's going to be this other shoe to drop. Yeah. There's going to be this magic
October
door.
surprise.
Yeah, magic door that opens and they're going to get rid of Biden, or something spectacular like an assassination could happen. Of course, all within the zone of possibility. But I think an underrated possibility, if not the likelihood, is that none of this happens. We do get our rematch, and that the forces are aligning to make both of them pretty strong. I sort of actually think, in a weird way, this was the result that made it most likely that Biden will be the Democratic nominee, i.e. there won't be...
He won.
Well, they're holding out... Okay, so I'm well on record in saying that I think the Biden replacement thing is like the idea they're going to put Newsom in there as a sort of boomer conspiracy theory.
We call that Biden replacement theory.
But yeah, I think...
You're against that happening before the election, or
I think it's
after
crazy.
The election?
I mean, okay. I think Biden is the president. Like, it's like a real thing. There's like a real guy called Joe Biden.
Okay, I agree. I already have issues, you and me now.
Well,
I don't know about that.
I know there are people who think there's
he's
like
a hologram or a deep fake
it's a glass
or a
plate, and they project.
Or he's an actor or something.
Well, yes, to all those things. We can disagree. We can disagree on that.
All right, there's somebody who bears an awful amount of resemblance occupying the Oval Office.
No, occupying the across the street studio replica.
And I do think he is endowed of certain authority of the state, and he can do certain things. And so, while there may be a wide array of people in the American establishment who want him to take a hike, if he really wants to be persistent in this, he's gonna do it. And I think if he had been indicted, it would have undermined his case that he is sort of squeaky clean and that look how much better he is than Trump. So I think it actually bolsters his credibility within the party. But outside of the party, I think this is actually the result that makes him the weakest plausible general election candidate that he could have been, because it is going to make the Republicans look like they are the underdog enemies of the state. Look at the way the Democrats roll. They'll indict the Republican nominee for 95 different felonies, and look at the way the Republicans roll, which is that they won't weaponize the justice system. And however, we have this sort of, Spock-like Republican prosecutor person just throwing a nice little aside that they think the president of the United States actually isn't capable of executing his duties. And I think it's withering. Like, I think it's bad to be indicted. I think Trump's life is more acutely stressful than Biden's. But in terms of the sympathy of the average voter, Biden looks like a bit of a bully here, and Trump looks like the underdog.
Mm-hmm. What if just on election night or like right before they agree to debate, and then quite literally both Trump and Biden just collapse on stage? Just like,
it's totally possible. I'm not saying
just
like
both of them, and we're like, wow, and nobody expected that. I mean, I thought Trump was pretty good, but then the argument the Democrats have is, Trump's old too.
People don't drop like that as much anymore. It's not Russia, right? They don't have gravity problems.
You haven't watched Suddenly Died then.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No, I mean, it's just. Biden had a brain aneurysm in the 80s, so his late 40s.
Mm-hmm.
And
wow.
Yeah.
That's young.
But he's had like 35 post-brain aneurysm. He's had more post-brain aneurysm years than I have had life.
Right.
Like he had an aneurysm in 87 or 88. I'm born in 1990. So he's really had, they really do keep these guys rolling. Like, I think
that's why he plagiarizes all the time. He can't come up with his own stuff. I got to just keep taking from the past.
Well, I actually think this is sort of my pet theory about why his thinking is so obviously garbled. So Trump sort of just engages in the world by just literally saying whatever he wants, and that's kind of how he's rolled for his entire life. Mm-hmm. Bernie Sanders, our other very elderly celebrity politician, he's got a script. It's always the bankers, it's always the overclass, it's always the capitalists. Biden, by contrast, has to quadruple triangulate constantly. Which side of the party is not ascendant? What thing can't I say? And I think that works when you're in your 40s or your 50s, but it must be super confusing in your 9th decade.
Thanks for watching this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. Hang out with us live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. and become a member over at timcast.com for uncensored, members-only shows exclusive. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.